God bless you. It's your boy Pastor Q coming to you from Second Chance Church. Pray that everybody's having an amazing weekend and staying safe. Really quick word this morning. It's a familiar passage of scripture. We're coming from 1 Samuel chapter 17. This is dealing with Goliath, man, and I think it's a timely word for us as we are entering into this new year, whereas we are not allowing what we see to impede on what God has spoken over our lives. If you have your words, we're going to 1 Samuel chapter 17. I'm actually picking up at the 16th verse, and I'm reading the New Living Translation. I'll make sure I put it up for us. For those who have not our words with us, it says, "For 40 days, every morning and evening, the Philistine champion strutted in front of the Israelite army. One day, Jesse said to David, 'Take this basket of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread and carry them quickly to your brothers. And give these 10 cuts of cheese to their captains.'" So he's sending them some cheese sandwiches. "See how your brothers are getting along and bring back a report on how they are doing." David's brothers were with Saul and the Israelite army at the valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. So David left the sheep with another shepherd and set out early the next morning with the gifts, as Jesse had directed him. He arrived at the camp just as the Israelite army was leaving for the battlefield with shouts and battle cries. Soon the Israelite and Philistine forces stood facing each other, army against army. David left his things with the keeper of the supplies and hurried out to the ranks to greet his brothers. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out from the Philistine ranks. Then David heard him shout his usual taunt to the army of Israel. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. "Have you seen the giant?" the men asked. "He comes out each day to defy Israel. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. He will give that man one of his daughters for a wife, and the man's entire family will be exempted from paying taxes." David asked the soldier standing nearby, "What will a man get for killing this Philistine and ending his defiance of Israel? Who is this pagan Philistine anyway, that he is allowed to defy the armies of the living God?" And these men gave David the same reply. They said, "Yes, that is the reward for killing him." But when David's oldest brother, Eliab, heard David talking to the men, he was angry. "What are you doing around here anyway?" he demanded. "What about those few sheep you're supposed to be taking care of? I know about your pride and deceit. You just want to see the battle." "What have I done now?" David replied. "I was only asking a question." He walked over to some others and asked them the same thing and received the same answer. Then David's question was reported to King Saul, and the king sent for him. "Don't worry about this Philistine, David told Saul. "I'll go fight him." "Don't be ridiculous," Saul replied. "There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man at war since his youth." But David persisted. "I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats," he said. "When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If an animal turns to me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, oh my, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defiled the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." Saul finally consented. "All right, go ahead," he said, "and may the Lord be with you." Then Saul gave David his own armor, a bronze helmet and a coat of mail. David put it on, strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such things before. "You can't go out here in these," he protested to Saul. "I'm not used to this." So David took them off again. He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream and put them into the shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. Goliath walked out toward David with his shield bearer ahead of him, sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. "Am I a dog," he roared at David, "that you come to me with a stick?" And he cursed David by the names of his gods. "Come over here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds of wild animals," Goliath yelled. David replied to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut your head off." and then I will give the dead body to the I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel, and everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with a sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. As Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran out to meet him. Reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it and slung it and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell on his face on the ground. So David triumphed over Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. Then David ran over and pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath. David used it to kill him and cut off his head. Real quick, I want to talk to you about what giant? What giant? God, you're dope. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your familiar word that's always breathing new and living revelation, God. Now, God, remove all of me, increase all of you. Allow your word to go forth to penetrate the hearts of your people. Allow, God, to shift and change mindsets, shift atmospheres right now in the name of Jesus. Amen. What giant? When we look at this story, it's a familiar story. Everybody gets hyped about it. Our son, Sir David, his name is named after David because that's one of my favorite characters in the Bible, favorite men in the Bible, because of just his might and his power and his story of what he dealt with. I myself am a little David as well, and I have a story of my own. And it's just dope as him being a descendant of Jesus. But the story here with this giant is just so familiar because this is what we deal with on a daily basis. And what I'm trying to help us not deal with in 2023. I think I got 3 quick little points here. First point is how Goliath was introduced. If you go all the way back to the first beginning of this chapter, Goliath is introduced by title first. He's introduced by the conqueror, the champion, this man of Philistine. They gave him all these titles and then said the giant, the man, Goliath. Then they gave his name. We as a people constantly make everything bigger than what it is. That's point number one. You need to stop making everything bigger than what it is this year. Or this bill, or all this man, or all this woman, or all this job. We're making everything bigger than what it is. Oh, it's a past due notice. No, it's just a bill. Stop making it bigger than what it is. But more importantly, stop making it bigger than your God. Next point, I'm moving quick. The armies that came out to get ready to fight, they saw Goliath and they fell back and ran. Even King Saul was like, hey, God be with you, because I ain't like, bro, you the king. So if we don't even have faith in our king, and our king is showing fear in the face of adversity, then what hope do we have as a people that we can defeat and conquer this thing as a nation, yet alone as people of God that we claim ourselves to be? He's defying, he's ridiculing, he's talking trash, he's all out calling everyone. And he did this. Goliath went out there and talked trash for 40 days. 40 days he went out there and was like, who gonna come out here and fight me? Who wants some of this smoke? Don't none of y'all want this smoke. And everybody was fearful of him. This year, second point, you're gonna have to open your mouth and talk back to the enemy. And let the enemy know, like, check this out, bro. You ain't about to intimidate me no more. I'm not going to allow you to storm around my 40 days, my 40 weeks, my 40 months. I'm not dealing with that no more. I'm not taking to light no more your mouth and your antics. What's crazy about the enemy is he uses the exact same tactics over and over again. For 40 days, Goliath went out there and said the same thing. And what happens is they backed off and they were scared of it. And this is what happens to us in our lives. We allow the enemy to use the same tactics in our lives. And we get fearful and scared as if we don't know the outcome already, as if we don't know who is victorious in us and through us already. If you don't step up and stop being sucker soft in 2023, I'm going to tell you something. You listen, there is a greatness inside of you. Greater is he that's in you than he who is in the world. And what's happening here is David knew that. David was like, well, who is this cat? And here's I think the next point here. If you look and listen to the story, David was like, well, check this out. Who is this and what's the reward? David clearly heard it, but he just wanted them to repeat it back to them to try to get them to get some courage in themselves. And they missed the point. They said the reward is that if you kill this giant, then you get a wife, and your house is your father's house is paid full free, no taxes or anything. And David said, say that again. What's the reward if we kill this? And they said, this is the reward if you kill him. And he's like, all right, cool, bet. It's a bet. But then what happened here is his own brother stood up there. I was like, bro, first of all, what you doing out here? Why are you even out here? Ain't you got some sheep to be tending? Shouldn't you be doing something else? Here's my next point. Be careful who's around you, and be careful who try to get in your ear. And it's always the family, always the folks that's closest to you that try to diminish who you are and what you got going on. It's always the ones that you're supposed to depend on that's going to be there to support you. The ones that you depend on and say they got your back. The ones that depend on that say, I'm your mentor, I'm your buddy, I'm your dad, I'm your mom, I'm your brother, I'm your sister. It's always the ones closest to you that turn their back on you first. And he's like, yo, why are you even out here? But David responded to him. In some versions, it shows that David responded like, what did I do now? And then he went and got the answer from somebody else. But there's another version, I believe King James, where David didn't even respond. It says David turned to another. He didn't even pay attention. That's what you're going to have to do this year. You're going to have to stop allowing negative noise, negative people, negative Nancys, negative Nicks, negative Negroes to get in your ear this year. And don't even give them no response. Not everybody need a response this year, because what God has told you to do, he's told you to do. You ain't got to be validated by nobody. You don't owe nobody on this earth an answer. If God said you go out there and you slay that giant, you go out there and you start that business, you go out there and you get this and the other, then you be about your Father's business, period. Don't worry about what nobody else got to say, because them the same Negroes that's standing there scared and shaking in their boots and don't want to do it themselves. Because if I was David, I'd be like, first of all, bruh, why you standing here? You ain't did nothing. You letting this guy sit up here and talk trash about our God, and you ain't did nothing about it either. And you supposed to be my brother, and at least I got something to do. You in the army, and you still ain't did nothing about it. I'm tending to sheep, and I had to come out here and bring you a cheese sandwich, bring you a snack, and come out here and do your job. And what's dope about it is, think about that. If you look and face all of these giants that's coming up in your life this time, David looked and he faced this giant saying what God did before. If he did it before, won't he do it again? Sometimes the giant that's standing in front of you needs to be introduced to the giant that you know that's inside of you. Sometimes you need to introduce this new big problem to your old problems that used to be big problems that ain't problems no more. David quickly said, yo, my God, I remember anytime I had a sheep that gone missing from a lion or a bear, I would go and get a club and go out there and with my bare hands beat them to death and get my sheep back. I would leave all my sheep and come after my one. Don't it kind of sound like Christ and his parables in the New Testament that he talked about? Will the shepherd leave one and will leave the 99 and go after the one? Sure it does. This is what I'm talking about. You have to be recalling of what it is that God has done for you once before where you can know that he's going to do it yet again. And that's what you need to tell these giants this year. Yo, the same uncircumcised Philistine that talked trash to me in 2022 gonna try to talk trash to me in 2023. The same trash talking that's happened in 1999 gonna try to talk to me in 2023. I don't think so, because I know who I am and I know whose I am. And so David did that. But what was dope, back to my second point, you got to talk back to the enemy. Stop being sucker soft this year. Stop being timid. Stop being intimidated and sit up there allowing people to talk and say anything to you. And that's probably why people say and talk and treat you the way that they do, because they know that you ain't going to do nothing about it. But now is the time to shake some furniture. Now it's the time to move some weight. Now it's the time let me tell you something. This ain't the same old dude. This ain't the same old chick. I ain't the same old kid off the block. Let me tell you something. I get on your behind, bro. See how the Lord called me? I get with you, bro. I'll put this Bible down and I get with you real quick and let you know that, yo, I'll put these paws on you. And that's what David was basically saying. He's like, yo, I put these paws on bears and lions. And even when the lion and the bear try to come after me, God rescued me. So why wouldn't he do this again for me against a man? I went against a bear and a lion for a sheep. And you mean to tell me you allowing this man to talk trash to you just because he's taller than you? And so what I love about it is this year, probably got another point now. This year, thank you, God, you can't fight the same way that you used to fight. You can't fight this battle the same old way. Saul tried to give him his armor, try to give him his sword, try to give him this is the way he fight. Hey, this is how we used to do it in the old school. You have to go and break the mold this year. You cannot continue to do the same old this time around, because that same old fighting, that same old tactic, that same old way of doing things gonna get you those same old results, that you're gonna have yet another giant standing up talking trash to you, saying that you can't do this. And what's happening is he said, yo, I can't do this. He took 2 steps and said, yo, get this junk off me. This ain't what I'm about. What I love about it, if you go into the King James Version, not only did it take it off, and King James Version says that David left the presence of the men who were talking trash. Everybody started to murmur. It's like, yo, y'all gonna send this boy out there? And even in the King James Version, it says that not only was David a boy, but he was a good looking boy. So you're gonna send this handsome, cute little boy out here to do some dirty work. Let me tell you something. This year, you ain't even gonna have to get ugly to do what God told you to do. You ain't even gonna have to get ugly. You ain't even gonna come out of this battle scarred or scraped up or bruised up. You still gonna be fine coming out of this battle, because you're gonna be fine going into it, because God is good and he is fine in everything that he does. Check this out. This year, bro, you need to talk back. You need to change your mentality. You need to go forth and know who God is inside of you, and know that, yo, this is the giant that you're talking about. This bill, this issue, this boss, this job, this situation, this circumstance, this you. Yeah, check this out. I get on you, bro. So what David did after that, he took off of that and said, I'm just going to go and use something familiar. God's going to use something familiar in your life this year to do unfamiliar things. God's going to use ordinary things this year in your life to do extraordinary miracles. The ordinary stone that was laying beside a creek, David got 5 of them joints. And here's what's so dope about God in that little mess. That's a whole nother sermon in that too. He ain't gonna use everything. He ain't even going into that battle when David took off Saul's armor and said, this is too much. And he went and got 5 stones. 5 stones. Chicago, y'all know what I'm talking about, black stone. 5. He went and got 5 of them joints. And he said, yo, even these 5 stones is too many, because you only need 1, because I'm the only one that you need to go into this battle. There's only one that you need to go out in front of you. Now look at how Goliath came versus how David came. Goliath came to the battle against David with an armor bearer in front of him, carrying his stuff for him, and got killed. Boy, now that's a whole sermon for these preachers and stuff, and I ain't hating on y'all who got armor bearers, but y'all better stop acting like y'all all this and that, and you can't do nothing without somebody carrying your stuff for you, and oh, I can't operate, I can't move unless somebody pick up my cloth or pick up my Bible or pour my juice or open my water. Man, you better, boy, whatever. Let me tell you something. Mess around and go out there and try to battle some enemies and some demons. You can't do it without your armor bearer. You're going to get bruised up in that pulpit. You better get some accountability for yourself and take God for you. David took God and said, God is going out before me. I'm proclaiming God's name. I'm coming in the name of the Lord's armies. And because he allowed the Lord to go before him, that's why he was victorious in this battle. Now, some scriptures say David was 9 feet. Some say he was 13 feet. Whatever the size of the giant is this year, it don't freaking matter. Period. Point blank. It don't matter how big your giant is this year. It's going to take one ordinary thing for God to do an extraordinary thing to manifest in your life, if you believe and allow him to go out before you. So the word for today, and just to really sum this thing up, man, don't you sit up here and create all these labels for these giants this year. God is greater than that. You can't fight this battle like you fought it in 2022. You can't fight this battle like you fought it in 95. You can't fight this battle like you fought it in 67. If you can't use those same old tactics. You're going to have to use ordinary things to see extraordinary results in God. That ordinary stone, that ordinary pause, them ordinary words to see extraordinary things happen and manifest through God. And lastly, you got to go out there and know that, yo, this y'all boy. And listen to how Goliath talked to David. He was like, yo, y'all gonna send this kid out here with a stick like I'm a dog? Who is this? I'm finna kill this kid. I'm finna set it up. I'm finna send him to the birds, and these birds gonna feast on his body. And David responded and said, no, bro, you got it wrong. I'm about to kill you. You got to talk back to the enemy. Like, don't stop letting people just talk to you any type of way. And I'm not saying, I'm not proclaiming violence and nothing like that. But violence, we got violence. But I'm saying the violence take by force. But it's a matter of stop allowing folks to just treat you any ordinary way. Do you know who I am? You know, and I say that as humbly as I possibly can. You have no idea who my God is and what he's capable. I mess around. If I start to worship and praise, I allow God to enter into the presence. And I'll mess around, bring God down on you, bro. You have no idea the power that's within me. And that's the power and the might that you need to walk in this year. Walk in your, listen, boy, if you don't catch this thing, you're going to miss it. Walk in your power this year. Stop allowing these giants to be giants over, because here, these giants ain't bigger than your God. If he did it before with the lion and the bear getting beat up and bruised up, and he got the sheep back, why won't he do it again for you against this giant? Stop making these giants. And that's your word. Anytime anything tries to come against you this year, just say, what giant? What giant? What giant? And that's what David was simply saying, like, who is this? Like, what giant? Who are y'all talking about? This dude right here that's talking the same stuff. The enemy uses the same whack, tired tactics every freaking day and loses every time. And you still sitting and fretting, and still sitting and crying, and still sitting and depressed, still sitting and sad, still sitting and lonely, still sitting and not moving. Get off your behind and do something this year. What giant? What giant? God bless you, man. Have a dope week. Have a dope year. And look at every opportunity for you to go out there and slay a giant with some ordinary things and watch God do extraordinary measures and works in your life. God bless you.